Welcome, I'm the Kaiju Kami here at Denver Comic Con 2017. I'm here with another great writer, Marz. Welcome, are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, it's been great so far.
Is this your first time being at Denver Comic Con, or have you been here before?
No, first time at Denver Comic Con. I was just at a show in Aurora a few years ago, but this is first time in downtown Denver proper, so hopefully we can explore a little bit after the show tonight.
So, have you had any problems with the altitude?
No, not too bad. I mean, I haven't tried to run any races while I've been here, but so far so good.
Being that I'm originally from New York, it's so different. I was never affected, but Corella Cocaine, she was. It took her like a month afterwards, and it seems to be different. Some people are like, "Oh, I hate it," and other people are like, "Oh yeah, I didn't feel any difference."
Yeah, I'm surprised that I haven't felt anything so far because I do have a touch of asthma. And it hasn't been bad, so hopefully it stays that way.
Well, welcome to downtown Denver.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, we got in late last night and just got into the hotel just before that torrential rain and lightning hit, so we really haven't seen much of anything, but hopefully the weather stays with us and we can wander around a little bit. I'm kind of disappointed the Rockies aren't in town, but apparently they're in Arizona where I was last month, so...
So you were at Phoenix Comic Con?
Yeah, I was at Phoenix, and the Diamondbacks left town the day we got in. So I kind of feel like these baseball teams are avoiding me.
Well, let's see what happens if you go to San Diego Comic Con and whoever's team is like local there, if they go.
Oh, the Padres are always out of town. It used to be that before the convention turned into the monster that it is, used to be. On some years, the Padres would still be in town, and they were right across the street from the convention center. You could go over and see a game. Now it's such a madhouse that they make sure that the Padres' schedule calls for them to be out of town because they don't want to be packing even more people into the downtown area there.
Yeah, I can imagine it because I've heard stories about the lines at San Diego Comic Con.
It's an ordeal to be survived. I think everybody should kind of see San Diego once, but. It's really a mob scene, and the show itself is expanded all through the downtown area. So the show itself just goes for blocks in any area. It just takes over the town.
It does sound great. I still have reservations on if I ever want to go or not. But as you said, that one time is worth it for at least once.
Yeah, you have to see it, and obviously San Diego is a beautiful city. So. There are worse things than being by the ocean for 3 or 4 days.
Now, when it comes to your comics work, I want to first talk about, because you are the most highly praised and most highly hated Green Lantern writer. What was it like? And I'm the fan of Kyle Rayner. That was my entry point to Green Lantern. What was it like having to create a new character to replace an iconic one?
Well, DC really just let us make up Kyle. They let us make him up as we saw fit, without a lot of direction from editorial, which is a huge gift. They let us do a character that, to my mind, we wanted to do a character that was unlike Hal. If we were going to just sort of do Hal Jordan light, there was no reason to replace him in the book. So I wanted to do the kind of character that I grew up reading. Certainly, I was a Spider-Man fan, and I kind of like that everyman aspect of Peter Parker, that readers could see themselves in his character. And he was a character that the audience could care as much about when he was in costume as when he was out of costume. So that was really my goal with Kyle. That I wanted him to be somebody that the readers could see themselves in, somebody who would sort of be a mirror for what a reader would do if maybe he got a Green Lantern ring.
And what was the decision making behind making him a comic book artist?
Just that Green Lantern is essentially a special effects book. It's a visual book about what sort of cool stuff you can make with the ring. So we wanted somebody who had the most visual imagination possible, and an artist seemed like the obvious choice.
Now I have to ask also for some of the fans, who came up with the infamous refrigerator idea?
Oh, that was totally me. It was really inspired by a scene in a Stephen King novel in Firestarter when a character, the main character Charlie, her mother is is killed by the bad guys, government agents, and her body ends up stuffed in a washer or dryer or something like that. That scene always stuck with me, and I kind of felt like if I wanted to make an impact, I wanted to have a memorable death for a character. That's how that came out. It was the character of Alex that was, who was the character that was killed. We always knew that she was destined to meet an unfortunate end at the hands of a villain, because we wanted to show the audience that this was not a game. This was not just like winning the lottery and having a magic ring. That because of the turn that Kyle's life had taken, that all of the people around him were vulnerable. Even if he wasn't as vulnerable because he had this immense power, that the people around him would be the ones that would pay the price.
And that actually is a really great idea, that it shows that, yeah, you might be a hero, but those around you might not be able to survive because of that. And hence what justifies, like, why Spider-Man would never reveal his identity to anyone.
Sure, it's certainly a trope in superhero comics, in fiction in general, and in superhero comics in particular. There has to be some sense of danger to your character and to the supporting cast, or there are no consequences. There are no real stakes.
And consequences are definitely necessary, because that's everywhere.
Yeah, it's obviously this is serial fiction. You know that for the most part your main characters, your heroes or heroines are not going to wind up dead and never come back. So you have to have, if you're going to institute lasting change in the book, it's usually got to come through supporting characters.
Now, you have worked for both Marvel and DC. Do you have any fond memories between the two companies?
Well, sure. I enjoyed my time at both Marvel and DC, and I've done work recently at both places too. The coolest thing about it is you end up being able to play with the toys that you read about as a kid. You get to write the characters that meant something to you when you first discovered comics. There's really nothing like that. There's no itch you can scratch that's better than that.
So now, backtracking backwards, what got you into wanting to be a comic book writer?
I was a writer at the time. I was a newspaper reporter and editor, so I was a journalist. I was making my living as a writer anyway. My friend Jim Starlin, who is an all-time great
creator of Thanos,
creator of the Infinity Gauntlet, all-time great writer-artist. I was friends with Jim, and he's the one who suggested, well, you want to try your hand at comics, and I was already a comics fan, certainly, but Jim's the one who showed me the ropes, taught me how to write a script, and then took me into Marvel and showed me around, and I've been doing it ever since.
Sounds great. And what would you say to kids that are teetering between whether they would be, they want to be a writer or an artist, work for a comic book, or just for like a regular novel? What would you recommend if they're unsure?
It's a lot easier to break in as an artist because you can just show somebody your work, and within 2 minutes they know whether you're a professional level and they want to hire you. As a writer, it's a lot harder because you have to get somebody to sit down and read your work. If you're doing comic stories, your stories are judged by how well they're drawn, not necessarily how well they're written. So it's some of it is out of your control. I've been very fortunate that I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've always had work. I've always been able to make a living writing comics. That's not always the case. It's a hard road, but it's incredibly rewarding if you can do the things you want. And writing comics doesn't mean just writing for Marvel or DC. Writing comics means writing any kind of comic you want, putting it on the web, self-publishing it. It's not just writing Batman or Spider-Man that makes you a comics creator. You can tell any sort of story in comics that you want. The main thing is to just go out and do it.
And you said, so what were you doing for the newspaper?
I started out as a sports reporter, and then I became the entertainment editor. So I always knew I was going to be a writer, just because that's really the only thing I could do. I mean, once I had realized, well, professional baseball is probably not going to work out. That's what I did because I could always write.
And where can people find you on social media if they want to look up your work or look up you up?
I'm not on Facebook, but I am on Twitter at it's just at Ron Marz, and my website is www.ronmarz.com, and I'm also all over the ominouspress.com website as well. So I'm out there. You don't have to look too far.
Do you have any final words for my viewers?
For your viewers, I guess just buy the comics you love. That's what it really comes down to. You get to vote what kind of comics are produced, and you vote by buying. Your dollars are how publishers determine what they're going to do. If you buy the kind of books that you love, those are the books that you're going to get more out of. So buy the stuff you love, spread the word about them, and keep the business going.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
Until next time, bye.